Hey everyone, and welcome back. This is Lodo Family, and my name is Jen. Every week we put out a new menu that is basically really yummy eats for a really low cost. And we are going to get into that menu, but I wanted to bring up two things that possibly could affect your grocery shopping for the next couple weeks and possibly even the next couple months. So the first one, this past week we had Hurricane Helene, and that caused some major devastation all the way from Florida to Georgia, North Carolina, Texas, I mean, not Texas, Tennessee. I saw even big chunks of Ohio have lots of damage. Now, if you're not in the Southeast or directly affected by the damage, you may be indirectly affected. And what I mean by that is there are certain grocery stores like Ingles Market who their headquarters is in Western North Carolina. I think it's right outside of Asheville. Well, unfortunately, because their headquarters is so damaged, they are unable to accept any type of card payments. So, like my local Ingles, they can accept cash or check, but if you're trying to pay with a credit, debit, a WIC card, or a food stamp card, it's not going to work. And so that can cause some big issues for some people. So be aware of that. I've heard of other small grocery chains that are having the same issue. So, you know, I know that it's very frustrating and it's difficult, but you can't really take it out on these stores because they didn't know. They just didn't know. The second thing is that as of October 1st, the dock workers have striked. So that means that certain items that are imported into this country, mainly fruits and vegetables, either you're just not going to be able to see them or what you see is going to be at a much higher price. This is just the basics of supply and demand. This isn't price gouging. This is how much items they have and this is what they're willing to sell it for. So this doesn't mean that you need to go out and start panic buying, buy up all the produce and all the fruits. That's not going to help. It's also not going to affect a lot of things like meat and pantry items and even dry goods because those are all produced here in the US and then they're just shipped locally on trucks, not on like actual ships. So I keep seeing people saying that they're going to go stock up and, make sure that they have their stuff. Honestly, that's not something you should be worrying about right now. And if you do decide to go out and stock up, you are going to speed up any price increases that we would see. So that's actually going to be very unhelpful. So, anywho, enough about the yucky stuff going on. Let's get into this menu. This week, we are back with another 6 dinners and a dessert for under $70. And one of the reasons why I started adding desserts in is because over the summertime, there was a lot of desserts that we really couldn't do because we weren't using our oven. So now I'm like gung ho. But the funny part is, I finally found a dessert that didn't even take an oven. Anywho, let's look at our grocery list. Now, you will notice that I included some produce, but not a lot. The produce that I did include, a lot of it is stuff that is grown here in the US, so it should not be super expensive. But I have noticed already that eggplant is not available at every store. It is available at most Walmarts, but some of the other types of grocery stores, I was not seeing it. So you'll just kind of have to play that one by ear. But we did use a good amount of pantry items, which means there is a very high probability that you already have some of these items at home. So make sure you check not only your pantry, but your fridge and your freezer, and go ahead and check off some of these items, and then you can get your total even less. This week we were in, I'm going to mangle this, Mankato, Minnesota. I hope I said that right. Our total came out to $69.88, which is just 12 cents away from our goal. So we did pretty good. Now, some of the items that are on the pantry are seasonings like chili powder and Italian seasonings. You may already have those. Some of the other things you probably already have is maybe some Dijon mustard, soy sauce, maybe some maple or pancake syrup. You can easily get your total down this week. Now let's look at our individual dinners. In case you didn't know, I'm a huge pizza fan and it's always good when you order it, but honestly, it's just that tiny bit better when you make it yourself. And you can make your own pizza dough, that's fine. I actually just put a post on Facebook about the pizza dough recipe that I use all the time. But you know what? If you don't have a stand mixer, you can easily get one of these pizza dough kit or mixes. It's very simple. You usually just add water and add oil. And then we're just going to go with some ground sausage and some pepperoni. But keep in mind, we're going to use about half pepperoni and about half the ground sausage. But we're going to go ahead and cook off all the ground sausage with the onion. And then we're going to save half of it for another dish. This one, you can also add whatever you like. I happen to really like mushrooms, and so I added that. But if you don't, totally fine. Add what you like. The next one is going to be a sweet Dijon chicken. We have done a chicken with Dijon mustard before, and it was more very savory and herby. And this one is going to get that little bit of sweetness from either the maple syrup or the pancake syrup. And this is just a really good classic dish. And then we're going to do it with my favorite roasted potatoes, and then we're going to have some broccoli. This is actually very much do the prep work real quick, put it in the oven, and then, you just pop the bag of broccoli in the microwave. Super easy. So pretty low effort here. Okay, for this one, we're going to do a cheesy eggplant bake. Now, my kids were not a big fan of the eggplant parmesan, but I love it. But I found that the kids were not really aware that this had eggplant in it because we're going to peel that eggplant, so that bright purple color is not going to scare them away. Now, we are going to have about half a bag of pepperoni left over. You could easily throw it in here if you want to add some meat in here, or you could just keep it as a vegetarian dish. Totally fine. You could also, if you really wanted to, you could add some ground turkey or ground pork or ground beef to beef this up. Totally fine, up to you. Now, I will say that we're going to finish this at the end with some cottage cheese on top. It's a very normal substitution for like a ricotta cheese. Now, if you're not a fan of the texture of cottage cheese, you can just put it in like a food processor or one of those mini choppers and just give it a little bit of a process, and then it will really kind of smooth that out. So that's an easy change that you can make. And then, of course, cottage cheese is a whole lot cheaper than ricotta. Okay, let's go to the next one. In case you didn't know, October is National Chili Month, so we've got to have chili this week. Now we're going to take that half a pound of already cooked sausage. We're going to combine it with some ground turkey. Like I said, if you're not a fan of ground turkey, you could easily substitute that out. And then we're going to add in some kidney beans and some chili ready tomatoes, which just means it has a little bit of extra spice in there. And then I used to be one of those people that would go out and buy the chili seasoning mix. And then I realized that the majority of it was just chili powder and salt. And honestly, I can add salt to my own preference, and I tend to not cook with a lot of salt. So I've just taken to just using straight chili powder. You can get it, I think, for like $1.12 at Walmart. And then what the trick here is, I don't have a measurement for the chili powder because this is totally going to depend on how well seasoned you like it. I add a good amount, and I actually do mine more by color, because the more chili powder you add, it kind of adds more brownness versus the redness of the tomatoes. So I add a little, I cook, and then I taste it, and then I add a little bit more, and then until I find that perfect blend. Because you can always add more chili powder, but if you add too much at the beginning, you're pretty much stuck. You can't take it back. So keep that in mind. Now we're going to serve this over rice. If you're not a big fan of rice, you already have some spaghetti noodles, you could serve it over spaghetti. There's a zillion different ways you can have chili, so do with it what you like. It just happened to work out this week that we did it with the rice, and we're going to top it off with a little bit of cheddar cheese. And now here's the funny part. We're going to do this with a side of canned corn. Now for me, I'm just going to mix the corn in with my chili and put it over rice. Think of it like a chili rice bowl. My kids, on the other hand, absolutely do not like anything touching. So their plate would be a little bit of corn, a little bit of rice, and a little bit of chili. So you're going to have to figure out what works best for your family and then go with that. All right, let's go to the next one. This next one is a creamy Italian sausage soup. And oh my gosh, this is so yummy. We're going to use spinach because we already used it for a couple other dishes. This is actually a 10-ounce bag, which is, I think, about 7 cups, which is fine because you could easily have side salads one day. We're going to have it in another chicken dish, and you're going to use 1 to 2 cups. Now, this particular bag is only $1.98, so it's fairly inexpensive. So if you really like spinach, you could easily double up the amount here. Now, the kicker to this is really the cream cheese. So we're gonna, you know, slice our sausage, we're gonna saute it, give it some color, and then remove it because most of these smoked sausages are already pre-cooked, but we just kind of give it a little bit of color. Then we're gonna add in our onion and saute that until it's tender. And then here's the kicker. We're gonna sprinkle our 2 tablespoons of flour and kind of mix that around to get a basic roux. And then we're gonna go ahead and dump in our milk. And then I take my block of cream cheese and I chunk it up. And then you just start adding it and stirring it until it's fully melted. It makes it so creamy. And then we're going to add our potatoes in and we're going to just let this really kind of simmer with the chicken broth. And it is just so good. But this is also a great formula to where you can kind of switch this out and do whatever you like here. Maybe you don't want to do chicken broth and you want to do vegetable broth or beef broth. Totally fine. Maybe you don't want to do spinach, you want to do kale. Totally fine. The smoked sausage, you could easily do andouille sausage or chicken sausage. There's so many options here. So look at this as like a formula and then mix and match with what you already have. Now, this last one is kind of a fancy pants chicken, not gonna lie, because it's a stuffed chicken. But you know what? In my house, it's gonna get a little messy. It's gonna spill out. It's not gonna be perfect. And that's okay because we are going for flavor. We are going for yummy. And so we're going to end up using the other half of that cottage cheese and we're going to mix it with our wilted spinach and then we're going to stuff our chicken. Now, we're using chicken thighs this week, but you could easily use chicken tenders or chicken breasts. And depending on your chicken thighs, some of them are just really thick. Now, remember I talk about how chicken thighs are always kind of curled under? You're going to want to open this up. And if it's still really thick, you're just going to whack it. Whack it with your got a rolling pin, you've got a bottle of water, whatever. You're just going to get it nice and flat. You're going to put your filling in and then you're going to close it up. It's not going to close perfectly and that's okay. I just throw in a couple toothpicks and then I put them in the pan and we cook them. So just remember, it doesn't have to be beautiful. It just has to taste yummy. And this is definitely one of those that, oh my gosh, this is so yummy. You can even add some extra mozzarella cheese on here at the end if you want to like super do it cheesy. But the other part of this is we're going to do a mushroom rice. We used a little bit of that mushrooms on the pizza and we're going to cut up the rest of them. Normally I would do a slice, but in this case, I'm just going to dice them up and we're going to saute them and get all that nice mushroom flavor going. And then we're going to add our rice and our chicken broth and it's so yummy. You can also add any seasonings you like. I usually hit it with one of those like garlic herb blends. So lots of options here. Okay, let's go on. For dessert this week, we are going to do a no-bake maple peanut butter balls because we're trying to really incorporate some of those fall flavors, and maple is definitely on that list. Now, if you cannot afford true maple syrup, don't worry about it. Just use pancake syrup. Is it exactly the same? No, but you do kind of get that flavor, so totally up to you. Now, here's the thing. I made this the first time the way that it was recommended, where it's just, they're literally very squishy balls. You mix everything together and then you put it in the fridge and then you have a very soft balls. But here's the thing. I did about half of them and I squished them out to be more of like a cookie shape. And my kids loved them. Absolutely loved the flavor. I was not a big fan because the peanut butter is super soft, but the actual chocolate chips are a little hard. And it was just a weird texture to me. So the next time I made this again, and this time instead of adding the chocolate chips to the mixture, what I did is I just did straight peanut butter balls flavored with that maple syrup. And then I took the chocolate chips, put it in a microwave safe bowl, added a teaspoon of oil. This can be coconut oil, vegetable oil, butter, whatever. You just need something so it just keeps that smooth and creamy of your melted chocolate. And then I just took toothpicks and I dipped the peanut butter balls in there and then put it on parchment paper and let it refrigerate to harden. And oh my gosh, if Reese's came out with a maple peanut butter cup, this is how it would taste. Oh my gosh, they were delicious. If you made it this far, I just want to thank you so much for hanging out with us and checking out the menu this week. I know it kind of started a little doom and gloom, but I just figured I did not want you to not know about what was going on in our area or really in the US in general, because a lot of these things are going to affect everyone. Now, Please do not forget to head over to Facebook, find our page, just search Low Dough Family. You will find us there. Every day we are putting out lots of different ideas that you can use for dinner at your house in your meal plan. Speaking of meal planning, you can always join our Facebook group. It's called Meal Planning for All. This is where you can go ask help. I have a bunch of this. What can I make? Show off your meal plans. See other people's meal plans. See how other people are transforming their dinner leftovers into a completely different dish. Lots of good ideas there. And then don't forget to go to the website to get your free printable. You get all the recipes and the shopping list. And then you can also sign up for our email newsletter. We send it out once a week. And that way, if you miss anything, you get a link in your mailbox. So I hope you all have a wonderful week. Let's pray that, those that are suffering because of the hurricane and the families of dock workers are still doing okay, because, when they're on strike, they're not getting paid. And I cannot imagine that these people make so much money that they can afford to be out of work for this long. So please, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and let's just keep thinking and sending out good vibes to all those that need it. Bye, y'all.